Hello, welcome back to Paul's Stuff. This is my space on YouTube where I get to share everything that I love. Lots and lots of Star Wars, lots and lots of lightsabers. Today is about lightsabers, but what I wanted to do today is answer one of the questions that I get asked on a fairly regular basis, and that I see being asked on Facebook saber pages and the like. It relates to the music player on the Xenopixel Lightsabers. As you know, most of my collection is from Nexus, LGT as it used to be. And most of them are Xenopixels, either Xenopixel V2 or the newer Xeno3. And one of the functions on that is a music player. But regularly see people asking, how do I get the music player to work? Why won't my Xenopixel play music? It says it does in the instructions, but it won't play music. How do I get it to work? So what I thought I'd do today is a video on how to get your Xenopixel to play music. There's a couple of things that we need to look at with this. So this saber has a Xenopixel V2 board in it. The music player is exactly the same whether you have a Xenopixel V2 or a Xeno3. And one of the things we're going to be doing during this is looking at where the files are on the SD card for the music tracks. Anytime that you're doing anything at all with your SD card, there's two things to remember. One is when you're removing the SD card, make sure the battery is out. When you're putting the SD card back in, make sure the battery's out. And secondly, the first thing to do when you remove your SD card is to back up all the files that are on it. If you lose those files, you will need to go back to the vendor that sold you the lightsaber and hope that they can give you the files to replace them. Once they're gone, they're gone. So really important that you make a backup of your files. Onto the music player. Now, before we do anything at all, the most important thing in terms of this is to say that not all of the music, all of the fonts that come with Xenopixel lightsabers have music tracks attached to them. The way that the Xenopixel organises music tracks is that each font has its own music tracks. And if there are no music tracks in that font, the saber won't play music when that font is selected. Now, currently from the factory, from the Nexus factory, sabers come with 34 fonts on them. You may find that you've got a couple extra. Certain resellers will put extra fonts on, but the standard cores that come out of the Nexus factory have 34. And currently the only font that has music tracks in it is number 34. That's the Moonfield font. It's the last one on the SD card, number 34. All of the others do not have music files in them. So if you have any font selected on a standard Nexus saber other than font 34, Moonfield, you will not be able to use the music player out of the box. Okay, we're going to look at how you can add music files in. We are going to take a look at what's on the SD card. This is the same whether you've got a Xenopixel V2 or a newer Xeno3. The files that you need and where they need to go is exactly the same. But we'll be covering all that in another section of the video when we go and have a look on the computer at what's on the SD card in terms of music files. But let's have a look at how we get music files to play on the Xenopixel V2. So, first of all, we need to make sure that the saber's not in deep sleep, so we need to turn it on.
Power on.
And then before we turn the blade on, if it's out of the box, then as I say, you need to make sure that you have the Moonfield sound font selected. That's the only one that will currently play music. So assuming that you've got Moonfield selected as your font, if you hold the saber upright and twist it clockwise, it will start to play music. And if you've got more than one music track in that sound font folder, it will play them in order. So if we do that again, I know this sound font has 2 music tracks. So if we trigger the music player again, it will play a different music track. Once it's played those, in this case 2, you can have as many as you like as far as I'm aware. It will go back to the first one. To stop the music, we do the same again. Now, you have to have the saber off in order to activate or deactivate the music player. You have to have the blade off. You can have music playing with the blade on. But it has to be off to turn it off. Okay, so that's how the music player functions on the saber. Now let's go over to the computer and have a look at what files you need, what formats they need to be in, all those sort of things in order to get music playing on any of your sound fonts. Now once again, when you're using the SD card, when you remove the SD card, make sure the battery is out. Make a backup of the files that are on your SD card before you do anything with them. That way you can go back to where you started from if something goes wrong. But for now, let's go over to the computer and have a look at where those music files live on the SD card. Hello, welcome to the computer. So we're talking about how to enable music on your Xenopixel Lightsaber. So this is the same regardless of whether you've got a Xenopixel V2 core or a Xeno3 core. So the folders that I've got here are what you'll see on the SD card for a Xeno3. The Xenopixel V2 will look very similar, just that this setting folder will be called set. There are differences. If you want to know what those differences are, I have other videos that go into the differences between Xenopixel V2 and Xeno3 SD cards. I recommend that you go and have a look at those if you want to know those differences. In terms of music files and playing music files, there is no difference between the Xenopixel V2 and the Xeno3. They operate in the same way, they use the same files. So what we have here are all these numbered files. These are the font folders, and the setting folder contains the config file and all of the sound files for the system functions of the Saber. So what's in these folders is specific to a sound font. This one is system folders, system sounds for the entire Saber. We're not interested in the setting folder, we're interested in these font folders. Now the way that music is organized on the Xenopixel Lightsabers, each font has its own music files. So if you want the same music file to play on all of your fonts, you need to have the same music file in each of these numbered folders. If you just put it in one, it will only play in one. If you just put it in 12, it will only play on 12, on font 12. Now additionally, when you get a Xenopixel Lightsaber from the Nexus factory now, or from any of the resellers, this version came from Padawan Outpost, all of the soundtracks have been removed except for font 34. So out of the box, the only font that will play music is font 34. If we have a look in that particular font, we'll see at the end here, there are a couple of sound files that are marked up track 1 and track 2. This is the name that you will need to give a sound file for it to be triggered by the music player on your Xenopixel Lightsaber. It needs to be named track, space, open parentheses, then its number, close parentheses. If we go into the information for these files as well. So this is the information about this particular file, track 1. As we can see, they have a file extension .wav. That means they're a waveform audio file. These are the audio files that the Xenopixel will play. So if you've got a music track in a different format of file, say you've got an MP3 or an MP4 music track, you'll have to run that through a converter to turn it into a waveform audio file, a .wav file. I'll leave a description in the link to a couple of websites where you can do that. It's a relatively easy process, and you can convert soundtracks into you can convert other sound file formats into .wav files, but it does need to be this file extension in order for it to work on a Xenopixel Lightsaber. You can't just change the extension from MP3 say to .wav. It doesn't work. This is designating the type of file it is. You need to convert the file in order for that to work. A couple of other things we need to take notice of. All of the files that the Xenopixel Lightsabers use are mono. Makes sense, only has one speaker. It will only play mono files. And I've found with the music tracks, if you do have a stereo track amongst the music tracks in a font folder, it won't play any of the music tracks. You need to make sure that these are converted to mono in terms of the audio channels. They all have a sample rate of 44.1 kilohertz. I don't know how important that is, but I make sure all of mine are 44.1 kilohertz sample rate, and they're all 16-bit files. So they have a sample rate of 16 bits, or rather they have a bit rate of 16 bits per sample. So you need to make sure all of those things are there as well. Certainly the mono is important. The other two I'm not sure, but I would make sure that any files that you're putting in here meet those criteria. So that's needs to be .wav format, waveform audio format, needs to be mono, 44.1 kilohertz sample rate, and it needs to be 16-bit. Once you've got all that sorted, you can put any music track that meets those criteria into any of your font folders, and it will then be triggered by that it will be played when you trigger the music player on your lightsaber, which I showed you earlier in the video, when I had the lightsaber in my hand. So if we look at this, these are the same tracks that were playing on the lightsaber earlier. Just play a little snippet of them. They're exactly the same files that were playing on the lightsaber earlier. When you put these files in, when you play them with the music player, they will play in the order that you number them. So if you want them in a specific order, make sure the first one you want to play is numbered 1, and then number them from there. I haven't found any limit to the number of music tracks you can put on. Some of mine have 5 or 6. But that's where those music tracks need to be. So just to recap on this, each font folder has its own music tracks. If you want music track to play in every single font that you have, you need to put that file in every single font folder that you have. They need to be named correctly, so they need to be named track, space, open parentheses, number, close parentheses. They need to be .wav or audio waveform for file format. They need to be mono. They need to have a sample rate of 44.1 kilohertz. And they need to be 16-bit. If you get all of that sorted out, you can play music on any font that you like on your Xenopixel lightsaber. They don't come with music tracks in every font. The only font that comes with music tracks on a standard Xenopixel lightsaber now is 34. I think the music has been removed from the other sound files, from the other sound fonts, because of some sort of copyright issue around the music files. So the only font on an out-of-the-box Nexus lightsaber currently that will play music is font 34. That's the Moonfield font. Okay, so I think that's all we need to look at on the computer. We'll go back to me in the chair and we'll finish up this video. Okay, welcome back. There we go. We've looked at all the things that you need to know in terms of the files for the SD card in order to get music playing in any of your sound fonts. Once again, if you work with your SD card, make sure the battery is not attached to the saber while you're messing with the SD card, and always make a backup of those files that are on there. Can't really can't stress that enough. We've looked at the file formats that you need. There need to be audio waveform file with .wav extension, file extension. Need to be a mono soundtrack. Needs to have a sample rate of 44.1 kilohertz, and they need to be 16-bit. As long as you meet those criteria, you can put any sort of sound file you like into any of the font folders. Name it track, space, open parentheses, number, close parentheses, and the music player on the saber will play that track. You're not restricted to playing just music tracks on it. You can play any track you like. I know some sound fonts come with like ambience files. So if you've got, for example, maybe a Luke Skywalker Episode 5 sound font, it may come with a Hoth Battle soundtrack. It may come with a Dagobah background sound noises. soundtrack. All of these you can set up in the same way and play them with the music player. You're not restricted to just playing music on it. Play any file with, as long as those criteria are met. Once again, to operate it, we hold the saber upright and we twist it counterclockwise with the blade off. We twist it clockwise with the blade off. And we do the same again to turn it off. Nice feature, very straightforward. Again, you can play music while the blade is ignited, but you can only operate the music player when the blade is off. So you can turn the music on, ignite the blade, but then to turn the music off, you will have to extinguish the blade and then turn the music off. Very nice feature of the Xenopixel Lightsabers. Again, this works exactly the same, uses exactly the same files, whether you've got a Xenopixel V2 or a Xeno3. So, hope that's been helpful. That's the aim of this channel, is to share information like this that makes using these Xenopixel Lightsabers easier for you. Helps you understand them maybe a little bit better. If you have enjoyed the video, then do give it a thumbs up. That lets the old YouTube algorithms know that people like this content and they're far more likely to share it with other people. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you hit the little notification bell, that will tell you when I'm putting up new content just like this, which you might find helpful if you've got one of these sabers. And for other things as well. Cover lots of things on the channel, not just lightsabers, although there is a lot about lightsabers. So anyway, that's everything for this video today. That just leaves me to say one thing, and that's cheerio.